Manchester United walked into Stamford Bridge on Saturday evening without two first-choice centre-backs, sitting third in the Premier League table with the top four race still wide open. They were coming off a Monday night defeat to Leeds United. Chelsea at home smelling blood. And yet when the final whistle blew, it was Michael Carrick's side walking away with all 3 points, 1-0. Clean sheet, statement made. Welcome to Emma United Analyst. I am your host, and today we are going deep into everything that is happening at Manchester United right now. The Chelsea win, the reaction from players and pundits, the transfer situation building in the background, and the bigger picture of where this club is heading. Stay locked in because there is a lot to unpack. Let us set the scene properly. Michael Carrick took charge of this match, knowing Chelsea had a genuine advantage on paper. United were dealing with a defensive injury crisis. Aiden Heaven, a young defender, was deployed alongside Noussair Mazraoui, who himself was playing out of position at centre-back. That is a makeshift backline by any definition. And Chelsea, playing at home, knew exactly what they were walking into. The situation before kickoff was clear. United had just been beaten by Leeds United earlier that week. Chelsea's players and supporters were expecting to capitalise. The pressure on Carrick's interim setup was enormous. Lose this match and questions about United's top four credentials would have exploded across every platform. Win it and everything changes. Matheus Cunha opened the scoring before half-time, assisted by Bruno Fernandes. That goal became the only goal of the match, and Manchester United held on. They defended, they organised, they executed a counter-attacking game plan with precision, and they left London with 3 crucial Premier League points. Now let us talk about what was genuinely at stake here. It is now clear that Manchester United sit third in the Premier League table with 5 matches remaining. The top 4 race is still alive. Champions League qualification is the primary target for this squad and this interim management team. Gary Neville, speaking on his podcast after the match, put it in very direct terms. He described the outcome as avoiding a truly difficult situation. His point was straightforward. After United's loss to Leeds earlier that week, Chelsea were expected to take full advantage. A makeshift United defence at Stamford Bridge, away from home, with Chelsea in front of their own supporters. That was the opportunity Chelsea had, and they did not take it. Neville noted that Chelsea must have been thinking this was a real chance to close the gap, and yet United kept a clean sheet. That in itself is a significant analytical point, not just the result, but how they achieved it. If you want analysis this detailed on everything happening at Manchester United right now, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for Emma United Analyst. We break down every major story with the depth it deserves. The match and the reaction. Let us now go through the story step by step. The first thing worth examining is the defensive performance. Michael Carrick had Aiden Heaven and Noussair Mazraoui as his centre-back pairing. To put that in context, Mazraoui is primarily a right-back. He was being asked to perform a role that is not his natural position at one of the most demanding away grounds in the Premier League. Goalkeeper Sene Lammens, speaking after the match, acknowledged the challenge openly. He said, and I am reading his words carefully here, "It is not easy with players coming in and out, especially at centre-back. It takes time and confidence to settle. But we trust them because of what we see in training. Everyone here is capable of performing at this level, so when their chance comes, they have to be ready. And they were today." Now that is a significant statement from a goalkeeper who had to organise that defence in real time during a Premier League match away from home. My analysis of that comment is this. Lammens is not just praising his teammates, he is making a broader point about the culture Carrick has built in a short period. The word he uses is trust. That trust comes from training, that structure comes from preparation, and it showed on the pitch. Lammens also spoke about the away experience and the supporters. He said, "At home it is special, but it is also always very special away. You can feel the support of the supporters, especially in the first half when you are playing in front of them. But also in the end, just the feeling with them and the way we can celebrate with them as well. It was not the prettiest, but that sometimes is the most beautiful thing." What Lammens is describing here is resilience. Manchester United did not play beautiful football against Chelsea. They worked, they defended, they held their shape, and they took their one opportunity when it came. For a team in their situation, that is not a failure of style, that is a success of character. Lammens was then asked specifically about Bruno Fernandes. His response was telling. He said Bruno demands a lot from himself and others, which is why he can seem frustrated at times. But he described that frustration as the level required to compete for the UEFA Champions League and the Premier League. He called Bruno a leader on and off the pitch and noted that Bruno had been personally very kind to him since his arrival at the club, welcoming him from day one. The evidence suggests that the dressing room dynamic under Carrick is healthier than it may appear from the outside. A goalkeeper speaking openly about a captain's demanding standards, framing it positively, and adding a personal note about being welcomed by him. That is a united squad in the truest sense. Lamans also addressed Champions League qualification directly after the Chelsea win. He said, "We did a good job, but we are not finished yet. Even if we get it, we still want to win those last remaining games. Of course, that is the first goal, but the next goal is also to keep looking up. And you never know. That last phrase, you never know, is worth sitting with for a moment." Lamans is not making wild predictions. He is simply refusing to set a ceiling on what this team can achieve with 5 matches remaining. That mentality, coming from the goalkeeper who just kept a clean sheet against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, tells you something important about the belief in that dressing room. The pundits and legends speak. Now let us move to how the wider footballing world has responded to what Michael Carrick is building. Gary Neville was direct on his podcast, speaking about Chelsea's run of form. He said they look beaten. Chelsea have now lost their last 4 Premier League matches under Liam Rosinia. Neville said the weekend was a really bad one for Chelsea and that their failure to score against a makeshift United defence was a very bad situation for them. Not his words exactly, but the meaning is clear. Chelsea had everything in their favour on paper, and they could not convert it. For United, Neville described the result as a big response after a difficult Monday night against Leeds. He said it was a really good response. That from Gary Neville, who does not hand out praise lightly when it comes to this version of Manchester United, is a meaningful acknowledgement. Owen Hargreaves went even further. His assessment of Michael Carrick's interim reign was bold and clear. He said since he took over, Manchester United have been the best team in the Premier League. They have beaten Manchester City and Arsenal and shown they can execute a strong counter-attacking plan like they did against Chelsea. Now, I want to be careful here. The evidence we have supports those specific claims. United have beaten City, United have beaten Arsenal, and United have now beaten Chelsea with a deliberate counter-attacking approach. Hargreaves is not fabricating those results. He is drawing a clear line between 3 major performances and calling them the work of the best team in the Premier League during that period. Whether that trajectory continues is for the remaining 5 matches to determine. Ryan Giggs also weighed in. He spoke specifically about the legacy of former manager Ruben Amorim. Giggs was honest. He said Amorim took a lot of criticism for his style of play and that he personally did not enjoy watching it. But he then made a significant analytical point. He said some of Amorim's signings have been good and that the current United squad is now showing that. He concluded by saying Amorim has left the club and the players in a pretty good place. That is a nuanced and fair assessment. Giggs is not rewriting history. He is acknowledging that a manager can leave a mixed legacy in terms of results and performances, but still contribute positively to the long-term health of the club through recruitment and squad building. The situation is that the players Amorim brought in or developed are now contributing to a top 4 push under a different manager. That is important context. Giggs was also asked about Cole Palmer and whether the Chelsea midfielder would be a good fit at Manchester United. His response was revealing. He said Palmer would be a good fit, describing him as a Manchester lad, but his deeper point was analytical. He said Bruno Fernandes is the only one really creating things time and time again for United. He questioned what happens if Bruno has a bad day or is injured. He argued United need 3 or 4 players in the squad who can make things happen at the highest level. And he said Palmer is one of those players. I want to be absolutely clear on this point. The conversation about Cole Palmer is being framed as a question of squad depth and creative distribution. Giggs is not making a transfer claim. He is making an analytical observation about United's over-reliance on Bruno Fernandes as the primary creative force. Whether a move for Palmer happens is a separate matter entirely and remains purely speculative at this stage. A past prediction revisited. Now here is one of the more interesting elements of the current United story. John Obi Mikel, when Michael Carrick first became interim manager, made a very specific prediction. He backed Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea and Aston Villa to finish above United. He predicted Carrick's side would miss out on the top 4 or 5. He also questioned United's wins over City and Arsenal, calling them luck, and he suggested Carrick could not sustain a Champions League level push, even making a comparison to Chelsea's setup at the time. The situation now speaks for itself. United sit 3rd in the Premier League table. They have beaten City, they have beaten Arsenal, they have now beaten Chelsea away from home with a makeshift defence. Every element of Mikel's prediction is being challenged directly by results on the pitch. This is not about humiliating a pundit for being wrong. Predictions are difficult, and the nature of football means anyone can miss. But it is analytically important to note when a confident public prediction does not align with what is actually happening. It tells us something about how underestimated this Carrick era has been by people outside the club. The transfer picture. Now let us shift to the transfer window, which is building considerable noise around Manchester United heading into the summer. The situation with Eli Junior Krupi is one of the most concrete stories circulating right now. The 19-year-old Bournemouth forward has had a remarkable debut Premier League season. He has scored 10 league goals across 28 appearances. That is a highly productive return for a teenager, making his first full season in the top division of English football. Bournemouth are open to selling Krupi this summer. The expected fee is between £50 million and £60 million. Liverpool and Arsenal are also tracking the player, which means United are not operating in isolation here. There is competition for his signature, and that competition will almost certainly push the price toward the upper end of that range. Now here is my analytical point on this. The situation is that Krupi is clearly talented. 10 Premier League goals at 19 years old in your debut season is not a small achievement, but the question Manchester United's recruitment team must answer honestly is this. Do they need a 19-year-old with potential, or do they need an experienced winner who is ready to lead their attack from day one? Looking at the current United attacking setup, Benjamin Sesko, Mateus Cunha, and Brian Mbeumo are all capable players who have contributed this season. But the argument being made is that the attack lacks genuine experience and leadership at its core. Bruno Fernandes is doing extraordinary work from a midfield role, but he cannot be the sole creative and leadership figure for the entire team. A £60 million investment in a teenager, however gifted, carries significant risk in that context. It could be an incredible long-term decision, but the timing and the immediate need at the club must be considered carefully. There is also interest in Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott and Argentine centre-back Marcos Senesi, suggesting United's scouting focus on Bournemouth goes beyond just one player. That is worth noting because it indicates a broader strategic interest in a club whose players have adapted well to Premier League football. Moving to defensive targets, Manchester United have been monitoring Juventus defender Pierre Kalulu. Club representatives were recently in Turin to observe him closely. The evidence suggests this is genuine ongoing interest rather than casual observation. However, Juventus are now considering offering Kalulu a contract extension to protect his market value. That is a direct response to Premier League interest, which tells you Juventus are aware of what is happening and are taking steps to either retain the player or increase his transfer value. Whether United can agree a fee with Juventus before any extension is signed is an open question. It is important to note that this remains a rumour and a developing situation. No deal has been agreed, no bid has been made public. This is scouting and monitoring at this stage. On the attacking side, Borussia Dortmund winger Karim Adeyemi is emerging as a key target for Manchester United. The interest centres on the left wing, which is described as an area the club wants to improve. Dortmund's valuation sits at around 65 to 70 million euros. At that price, Dortmund feel they are in a strong negotiating position. United are considering their options. Again, this is a rumour. It is credible in the sense that it comes from a named source and involves a plausible profile of player for a position United need to strengthen. But no deal has been completed and no formal bid has been reported. There is also the Elliot Anderson situation. Manchester United have not given up on signing the Nottingham Forest midfielder. The key factor in their pitch to the player is the prospect of Champions League football. United believe that offering Champions League football could help them close the gap with Manchester City, who are also in the race for Anderson's signature. This remains ongoing and unresolved, but it is significant that United are still pushing. It tells you they rate Anderson highly and are willing to compete against City for him. The manager question and Unai Emery. Now we come to arguably the most consequential piece of the summer puzzle, the manager situation. Michael Carrick is currently interim manager at Manchester United. He has delivered impressive results in that role. But the club will need to make a permanent appointment, and names are being discussed. Aston Villa manager Unai Emery is attracting serious attention. The situation is that both Manchester United and Real Madrid are monitoring him. Aston Villa are growing increasingly concerned about his future. The reason for that concern is clear. Emery has done exceptional work at Villa, and the elite clubs of Europe are taking notice. Now, I want to be precise here. This is being reported as strong interest and monitoring, not a formal approach or an agreed deal. Villa are pushing for Champions League qualification and Europa League success. Emery's focus right now is on delivering those objectives. But the longer-term uncertainty around his future is real, and it is coming from the attention being paid to him by clubs of the size of Manchester United and Real Madrid. For United supporters watching this, the question is straightforward. If the club's hierarchy are considering a manager of Emery's caliber and experience, that tells you something about the ambition and the level of appointment they are targeting. Whether Emery ultimately becomes available and whether United move formally for him remains to be seen. But his name being in this conversation is not a coincidence. The Marcus Rashford situation. Marcus Rashford is one of the more complex ongoing stories involving Manchester United. The situation is that Rashford is a Manchester United forward. The Juventus are intensifying their interest in him. A high-profile move to Italy is being discussed as a genuine possibility. This is a rumour at this stage. No deal has been agreed. No transfer has been completed. But the fact that Juventus's interest is described as intensifying rather than casual suggests this is more than early-stage speculation. It is worth watching as the summer approaches. Endrick, legends and the wider picture. On a broader note, Real Madrid forward Endrick has publicly expressed his admiration for Manchester United. He spoke about following Cristiano Ronaldo's career throughout his time at United, Real Madrid, Juventus and Al Nassr. He described growing up watching Ronaldo at United and said the club holds a great affection in his heart. This is not a transfer story. Endrick is a Real Madrid player. There is no reported link to a move to Old Trafford. But it is a reminder of the global emotional pull that Manchester United carries, particularly among players of Endrick's generation, who grew up watching Ronaldo in a United shirt. Former Arsenal and France midfielder Emmanuel Petit has also revealed that turning down a move to Manchester United remains his biggest career regret. He explained that Sir Alex Ferguson expected him to join United, but he chose to remain in London with Chelsea instead. Family circumstances played a role in that decision. But Petit has now been open about wishing he had pushed harder to make the move happen. Again, this is a historical reflection rather than a breaking news story. But it does add to a broader conversation about the weight of Manchester United as a destination, and how players who are given the opportunity to join sometimes carry the weight of that decision for the rest of their careers. Finally, there is the Thierry Henry quote that has been circulating. Henry noted last year that Manchester United have played in 5 finals over the last 5 years, while Arsenal, despite 3 years of sustained building, have not reached a single final. Henry described United as the club everyone laughs at while making that observation. It is a pointed comment that places United's recent cup record in a broader competitive context. The reality for the club is that despite years of criticism and turbulence, the ability to reach major finals has remained. And now, with a push for Champions League qualification and 5 Premier League matches remaining, the foundation for something more consistent is beginning to take shape. Let me bring this together with a clear-eyed summary of where Manchester United stand right now. On the pitch, the Chelsea win was significant, not just for the 3 points, but for what it demonstrated: a makeshift defence, an away ground, a Chelsea side that was desperate to capitalise after United's midweek defeat to Leeds, and yet Carrick's side held firm. They kept a clean sheet. They took their one chance through Cunha and Fernandes, and they defended it to the final whistle. Gary Neville called it a really good response. Owen Hargreaves called United the best team in the Premier League since Carrick took over. And the players themselves, through Lamens, spoke about trust, belief, and an unwillingness to stop pushing even as Champions League qualification comes into sight. Off the pitch, the transfer picture is taking shape. Krupi from Bournemouth at up to £60 million. Adeyemi from Dortmund at up to €70 million. Kalulu being monitored at Juventus. Elliot Anderson still in United's thinking. Rashford potentially heading to Juventus. And Emery's name entering the conversation as a possible permanent manager. These are live situations. Some are rumours, some are more concrete. But taken together, they paint a picture of a club in active, serious transition. A club that has avoided the really bad situation Gary Neville warned about. A club that now sits 3rd in the Premier League table with everything to play for. 5 matches remain. The Champions League is within reach. And Michael Carrick, an interim manager who was given no timeline and no permanent contract, is making a compelling case that his presence at this club should be discussed seriously when the summer comes. The analysis is clear. Manchester United are not a finished project. But right now, in this moment, they are moving in the right direction. Thank you for watching, Emma United Analyst. If you found this breakdown valuable, please subscribe, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Chelsea win and the summer transfer plans, and share this video with any United supporter who wants the full picture. We will be back with more in-depth analysis very soon. Stay sharp.